Bright flashing by the street lights. Keep waiting till you've arrived.
Oh geez, I think I found the culprit. Look at that. I have these small pieces of the asteroid around my bigger chunk, but they were only loaded in after a while. I guess they are here, but the graphics are not loaded in if you are coming too fast. My best guess is that I damaged my exploration ship while I was coming back to base and accidentally hitting one of these smaller parts of the asteroid before it would actually load in, so I have not even seen it, not even would have seen it. Strange. Alright, back to mining. Hello folks. This is me with some more space engineers. I managed to build this server's key item, the frame shift drive, and I'm just coming to Tech public station because we are planning a trip to the moon. I'm not yet sure if we will travel separately or we will travel by me being attached to his big ship. We will see when we get there. I'm actually quite curious what we will find there. Since there are no NPCs besides the pirates, I'm not too sure that we will have anything interesting there. But at least now I can travel, so it should be fine. I will cut back to you once we are ready to go. I'm still waiting for him to finish preparations. He was waiting for me to finish my drive, and in the meantime he went for some mining. So I'm now at his ship and I'm waiting for him to come back home. Let me cut back to you when we are ready to go. Alright folks, so the next part of the video I was actually not talking, we were just chatting as I was preparing for the moon landing and moon surface exploring and getting there. It turned out I was not really understanding how the FSD drive works. So when I started out, I thought that I need to press the gas pedal as much as I can. But eventually, days later, I figured out that that's not the case. Once you start the FSD, it will put you into a sort of like a fast travel state, and then you are traveling with 0 kilometers per hour. And if you press your forward button, and it will accelerate you to 1 kilometer per hour, 2, 10, 20, 50 kilometers per hour, if your ship has the capacity for it. Mine didn't have. I could, comfortably travel with like 1 kilometer per hour to the moon, and that would still have been fairly okay. But I didn't know that. I didn't notice that my speed is increasing exponentially with the power usage. So how it went is usually that I entered FSD state and then I pressed forward, my ship accelerated, I went around 30 kilometers, then I ran out of power. It seemed to be that it's not working. So if you are watching this at a later date and you are just experimenting with your first FSD drive, you can learn from my example. First, you can just simply enter the FSD drive speed mode and then gradually increase your speed until the point you actually drop out. It can be 1 kilometer per hour, 2, 5, 10, whatever. It depends on the available power on your ship. Don't just press the gas as fast as you can because if you do that, your ship will just run out of power and you drop out of warp, and that's it. But if you gradually increase the speed, you should have no problem with it. Anyway, since at that point I thought that my drive is not working and I don't have enough power, I opted for the option to leech on Tetritech's mighty ship, and that was the one who was transferring me to the moon. I had a couple of audio issues the first time I was running the FSD. I'm not sure if I will be able to cut in some audio from that or not, but yeah, all I got was this harsh noise and I have no idea why. It was probably just a bug. After a restart it was working fine and the audio for the FSD drive was working perfectly, so no issues after that, and as I mentioned I figured out how it works eventually. We ended up going to the moon, we looked at the stations there available, and that was it basically. We looked at a couple of stations, looked at the available missions and the stuff they are selling and the stuff you can buy. And then I was running out of oxygen, so I opted for buying a small ship just to get back to mine and Tetritech's ship. So eventually I connected everything together, I latched onto his ship again and we went back. And that was my first adventure to the moon. Alright, so the next thing I did was I was completely dismantling salvage yard and left this little memento base there. And I'd see it a bit in the background. I built something strange above it. It was basically due to the server rules that I cannot really drive large grid ship without a license, but nobody told me anything about having a large grid with a beacon and batteries, and I could build a small grid enclosure around the large grid. So technically I was driving a small grid ship with a large grid parts within. That was my I called it a vault of glass because the exterior of it was made out of glass panels. That was the largest thing I can make of. And of course it was a vault because it was containing all my stuff. And all I left here is just this small memento outpost with a bed and oxygenated atmosphere, pressurized, and a beacon, and it was more or less self-sustaining because it had a lot of batteries and solar panels and everything. I used it as an outpost to get back to the asteroid cluster later on. But yeah, this was all. All I did was left this here and then I took a long journey to the moon now that I knew how far it is. Wow. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I'm happy that you joined me today. I am at my new base. The last two videos that I was showing was basically about me salvaging out in the dark asteroid field 1400 kilometers away from here. After that we did a small test of the jump drive, which was more or less working, not working. For me it was mostly not, because it needs a lot of power. And I didn't really know that at that time. I thought my batteries will be sufficient, and no, they were not. But that's perfectly cool, because after that I picked up my base, and with minimal super cruise speed, which was 1 kilometer per second, I was bringing all my stuff in that monstrosity that you will not really see. Since the server is not allowing large grid ships without license, I was had to construct sort of like a brace around it. I will probably drop a few pictures here for your enjoyment. It's one of the ugliest ships I have ever seen in Space Engineers. But it worked. I was able to connect to it via a connector, and with my small ship that is glowing red there, I was able to pull everything here to this moon. Then I had some challenges landing, because we do have a gravity of 0.33 on the surface, and that monstrosity out there was over 4 million kilos. So I had to do some calculations in terms of what I can do and what the engines can do, and how many engines I will need. And I think my calculations were coming close to needing around 32 small grid large hydrogen thrusters. So even though that was a bit of bending the rules, I actually opted for constructing 3 large thrusters on it, large grid large thrusters, because they are lifting roughly 700,000 kilos, and I needed them. Without those I would not have been able to land here. I mean, not as gently as I have. And then I started constructing a new base here, which I will plan to show you around. First, it was not a successful attempt. I forgot to rename it, and the server cleanup deleted everything that I did for over 2 hours. The second time I was a bit more cautious. I put down the beacon, it's straight ahead out in the snow, and then I started working after everything was renamed, powered and everything. That ship was providing quite a lot of solar power. All of the top section of it was full of solar panels. And then eventually I started building my own arrays here and my own stuff. And I'm still not finished with it, because if you look at my things here, let's check the batteries that I have. And now it says fully recharged, fully depleted, so I think I'm roughly around the same capacity as 0, I guess, because at night I don't have solar power at all, so I'm relying on all sorts of batteries. I think I'm quite okay, and the reason for that is that I have a reactor. Actually I have multiple ones, but I have a small warfare reactor that has, or at least I thought it's supposed to have some uranium. I think I do have 27 kilos in the small warfare reactor. I'm sorry, but I think this is not the one on the base, because I have a small warfare reactor on that red glowing ship out there as well, and I'm afraid my uranium was pulled in there. But it's okay. I also have this box here, and in this box I am also storing nearly 40 kilos of uranium. My adventures here were mostly about building and finding the nearby stations. If you look closely, I have a bunch of white signals on my screen now, and those are all stations where I can get missions, where I can trade. And I think it's pretty simplistic. At the moment, the best trade opportunities are going for magnesium, processed magnesium, and gravity generators. My actual bank account is should be around 12 million or so. I'm not sure how much I spent from it. We will take a look at that. But yeah, I wanted to tell you about the stuff that I did here, and that was basically visiting all the places. I was trying to map around where I can find resources. I found one magnesium deposit around 3.6 kilometers from here. I'm thinking about either to have a small mining base there to get that out, which would be a nice project, or I need to go back to the original asteroid cluster to buy more magnesium, because at the moment I think magnesium trade and gravity components are the best things that you can have on this server. Occasionally there are missions that will need you. I actually picked up one mission like that. Let me try to figure out where I mapped my key. I do have a contact screen and it is mapped to you. I accepted a contract for 47 gravity component, and if I manage to grab that, it doesn't have any time limit, luckily. It will give me 18 million credits, so that's good. I also picked up some smaller ones for explosives, because I know I have these and I never use. I also picked up one for superconductors, which is like just 31. I'm supposed to have a lot. Superconductors, yeah, well, not a lot, but I have just enough for that. And additionally to that, I have $333 kilos of gold. So that's actually fairly good. I'm not fully out of everything. Even if I would craft those gravity components, I think I would be good. Not fully, because 47 would require around 470 kilos of gold. Because crafting one would need 10. Oh no, it just needs 3.3 kilos of gold. Then I'm golden, more or less. I should be able to produce it, I think. Even maybe not all the way through, but I could do a few. Anyway, I was not planning to craft those gravity components since it doesn't have an expiration date. What I was planning to do was basically to go back to the asteroid where I was found the pirate signals, because here I have not seen pirate signals at all. I have a pirate station signal there, but I have not seen any pirate encounters. So, you know, the pirate encounters are not spawning on this desolate rock. One thing I wanted to show you before we proceed further are these super fancy new screens that I've put up in this area. The rest of the base is pretty dire, so you know, I'm spending so much time here mainly because this is the best decorated area in the whole base so far. And I was keeping an eye on the gas giant Luma there, because as you see it is getting illuminated. It means that we will have a sunrise soon. So I'm basically just stalling here, trying to buy my time until the sun is up so I can, you know, show more things. So the fancy new posters that you see here are actually AI generated. I have access to Midjourney AI, and I was, you know, giving it a prompt of generating me some space food, and this is what it come up with. Not the text, they put some spice on it, was my creation, but the background, the planets, and this space food tube, specifically written spice on it, was made by Midjourney AI, and I think it's very cool. So is this one. I was working on trying to generate some new ships for a video game that I was working on, which is basically a remake of Tyrant 3000, or at least a continuation of that, because that's probably copyrighted somewhere. And this was one of the ships that Midjourney generated for me. So I thought I will litter around these posters that I've generated with Midjourney, because I think it's very cool and it adds a lot to the space. Exit through the surface. I have a couple of containers and boxes here because this was meant to be a not fast travel location, but if anybody respawns here, like anybody from the server can see the respawn points, one of this will be appearing. And this have some boxes here. Well, I don't want them to take my uranium, but I think I have some guns here and ammo, and I have some bottles here that they can use, so that is something that they can have access to. So even if they fast travel here and they don't have anything, they will not be dying here because those stuff are there. I also added this. I had to view this from a bit of a distance because of the limitations of the screens in Space Engineers, but this was also made by Midjourney and the other one, the Space Blondie. I think it came out very good. I mean, in terms of, this was not done by any artist by hand or Photoshop or anything. I was just giving it a prompt of Space Blondie concept art and stuff like that, and it was generating me that whole image, and I really like that one. That's fancy. And it also, proportional, the hair looks good, background there are 2 planets, so it's exactly like what we have here, the one I'm standing on and the gas giant, although not the same, but it's close enough to be believable. This is also a large planet with somewhat like a ring around it and a smaller one, so I try to remain on theme. I also added an air vent button here. It looks a bit glitchy if you take a look at that. I was trying to create a good image for it, but to be honest, it was not really working out. It's just 10 o'clock in the evening. I can wait for that sunrise for quite a long time still. Anyway, I have a vending machine here and I have an ATM. And I currently only have 3 million credits, which is like nothing basically, but that's fine. I can make more. I also made this with Midjourney, which is like rooftop access, and I have one more here which is leading to the access trade terminal. This is a bit more abstract, but I still like it. It's not bad. Maybe we go out by candlelight. That's alright. I have not made much of this surface yet, but I have. Let me jiggle myself out of here. This gravity is actually quite heavy. I mean, even though it's not 1.0, I still feel it. If you're trying to go up, I'm fully pressing the space now, and it goes up so freaking slowly. But I forgot to talk to you about the balcony. There's nothing in these boxes yet, but it is something that I built, so people can sit out here and watch the sunrise, which is coming from that direction eventually. And I have my fancy ships that I will probably need to show you when the sun is up. So let me get back to you once we are actually seeing something. Then I can show you the underbelly, the hangar that I am constructing, and the landing pad. See you in a few minutes. Well, seconds. Minutes for me, seconds for you. Oh, here we are. The sun is coming up. It was so quick, I almost didn't have time to start the recording. Sunrises are beautiful here, but very, very quick. So are some sunsets. So if you ever come here and try to settle here and walk around on the, well, I guess moon's surface, You need to be aware that it goes up and down very quickly, like seconds. But here we are. Here is my wonderful collection of junk ships. This one was the first one that I probably showed a couple of screenshots on my Twitter account. I called this the puddle jumper. It was not specifically named for any reason other than I like Star Trek as well. I mean, Stargate. I like Star Trek as well, but Stargate I like too. It doesn't resemble the puddle jumpers, except the color might be similar. If you checked out Stargate Atlantis, the small ships are having a similar color, this metallic blue, and I thought it's fantastic. And I created this one, and I absolutely love the shape and how it handles. When it flies like a bird. Actually, I can show that to you as well. Let me. Oh no! I'm an idiot. I forgot to switch on things. Oh, what am I missing? Why my stuff are not working? Oh no. It says all on. Don't I have any? I have hydrogen. Oh, wait a sec, I know why. Hydrogen tanks, because those dang hydrogen tanks were stockpiling. Oh, I'm so freaking lucky that I have not lost half of it. The connector was actually damaged a little bit, but yeah, at least you will see the bottom of my nice crack station. And look at that, it handles like a bird. I absolutely love it. It can go quite fast. And unfortunately, it is not a long-range vehicle. I was trying to complete a mission which required me to go 20,000 kilometers out into space, but I only got halfway through, and the batteries of this were depleted, and I was not able to complete my mission. But at least I can show you this vehicle, because I absolutely like how it handles it. It has 4 gyros, so it is very nimble. I think I have large thrusters, so I'm not attempting to do a barrel roll with this one, even though I think I should be able to, but yeah, I leave that for another day. At least you can have an aerial view of my stuff and things. Alright, let me park this, and then I can get on to show you the rest of the base. Let me just jiggle my way back here, and I probably need to get out and oh, sometimes it's a bit hard to judge. Alright, so we are good on that part, but I think this one is damaged. Let me see what I will need for it. And then I just pull it from here. And then I will connect it. And then I have to switch things off, because if I don't, then it will go haywire. I need to switch off the engines, and I need to switch off the thrusters as well. And even though the engines are not running, the sound is still showing them as they are running. Anyway, so when I went for that expedition, I managed to stack somewhere out in the dark, and I had to come back here with fast travel and build another ship. Luckily I had plenty of gold and I built another one of these. This is the frameshift drive. This is the one that is allowing fast travel instead of the jump drive on this server. And luckily I have two, one on the small ship, one on this one. And learning from the experience of stucking halfway with my other ship, I built this one with a lot more batteries. So the centerpiece of this vehicle is a row of 4 batteries. I'm not even sure how many batteries it has, but it has a lot. I also built a larger cockpit here, and I'm quite happy for this one also, because this is you can close the doors. Oh, hold on. Are they closed? No, they are not closed. Alright, so now you can have all the doors closed, and now you see down in the bottom left, my O2 and worms are all in green. So this is a pressurized space. Let me depressurize and then I get out of it. One strange thing is that since this is so small, whenever I'm getting out of it, even though the doors are closed, I'm ending up outside. It's strange, but I like it. It looks good, even though there are no curved small pieces, so I was not able to make anything better than a brick. I really like how that turned out. I also have a connection point here, but yeah, this is just how I was managed to do it. It has 2 large containers, 2 small grid large reactors, and with filling this with uranium allowed me to easily go and grab my small ship. This one, the bigger ship, might have been able to do the journey of 20,000 kilometers and then complete that mission, but nah, it's okay. Actually, how things work here, these 2 reactors are not enough to fully operate this. I would need at least like 7 or 8 large reactors fully loaded with uranium to reach maximum speed, which would be 50 kilometers per second. So with that, I should be able to get wherever I need to for any mission very quickly, but again, that would eat up uranium like, I don't know, 100 doggo would eat his supper, because it would take a great amount of power to move things around. This was the small ship that I was talking about. This was the one that pulled all that one and more into this planet. And I've started building a landing pad here, but I have not managed to do much yet. I also wanted to add a bit more solar power here. And you have seen this ship before, so I'm not spending too much time in it. There's a hole on it because originally this one contained the frameshift drive, so I had to cut it out to put it to the other ship. This monstrosity is just a large grid without any control. It has a beacon, batteries, large containers. It has 3 large containers. I was dismantling one already, and 5 large tanks, large grid large tanks. They are all empty right now as far as I know, so I was in the process of dismantling this. And I need to figure out what will I do with these ships. Right now they are connected, but as you see, they are all having only like a pair of ion engines, so they are not able to support themselves in this atmosphere. They are perfectly good out in 0G, but not here. So I either need to grind them down, or I will eventually need to make a space station. And there they would be perfectly fine. This is a very good design, I'm quite happy with this one. It has 2 large containers, 2 large hydrogen thrusters. Actually, I might be able to do something about it, because it has a couple of hydrogen thrusters, but not in all directions, just to the sides. So if I would be able to build out the rest of the thrust as well, hydrogen, this should be able to operate here, but that's a problem for another day. And I started constructing something here which will be my hangar, for either for small ships or for large ships. And I was planning to have like an arch roof over it at some time. And this is what I built when we read in the rules, that you can actually have a large grid ship. I think the first, the players are allowed to have 5 small grid and 5 large grid ships. I'm not 100% sure on the rules either, but since I have not seen any other personnel than Tetritech on this server, I don't really know. Nobody was actually confirming how the rules work. As far as I can tell, I'm the only one who regularly spend a longer time here, and perhaps Tetritech occasionally. But I've not seen any other people building any large structure here. I don't know, maybe they are playing other games or something like that. I also have a ton of other games that I need to play, but I wanted to make sure that this base survives, because despite all the limitations of this server, I actually quite like a challenge when I see one. And playing on this vanilla server with limited access to high level materials is actually quite challenging. You need to first get here to get access to the stations. Then when you have access to the stations, you need to have the materials to trade and sell and complete missions with. And that's quite challenging. This ship is ugly as hell, even though I was not planning to, but building with small grid actually rubbed on me a little bit on this server. Now that I was planning to make one large grid ship, I couldn't really call it a pretty sight. I called it an Orca, like a Tetritech ship, but it's a different type of Orca. It was specifically meant for large grid ore detection, because I needed something that can detect ores below the ice. As you see, the ice layer is pretty thick. I'm not even sure, maybe the whole planet is ice, but and in some pockets you can find some very cool things. On that direction, actually, I went around this planet once while I was looking for ores. And if you look at it, there's a cluster there that I was advertising to Tetritech as well. In that cluster, within like a 2-kilometer radius, you have all the mineable resources of this server. So that would be a perfect source for a mining base. Well, not all, but nickel, silicon, iron, silver also. So I think the only thing that is missing is magnesium, but I was not spending too much time circling around there, so there's a good chance that even magnesium is there somewhere. I found, I think, 2 magnesium sources here on this one. One is, as I mentioned, around 3 kilometers out there. And I think I found another one too. I'm just not particularly sure where. Iron. So the resources on this server are very limited. I don't particularly like that, but it is what it is. One thing I wanted to show you is, because we have not seen too many connectors and devices and everything here, it looks like a very small base. It is not. It has an underbelly, which is basically a connection of the collection of various storage facilities, and I'm quite proud of this one. It do say that if I catch anybody here, I will shoot them. And you can, let me close it, and it goes down here where I have a row of large containers. This is where I'm keeping my stuff, and beyond these containers I have a row of tanks. You know, all behind all container there's a large tank, and beyond that there's 2 oxygen tank. So this is my the resource area, and I've started to build something out here which will be sort of like refineries and O2 generators. I have a double row of O2 generators. These will create the fuel for me, and I still have space for more. That's the small reactor I was talking about that was supplying my base. And I drilled out a section here for further development. I'm not yet sure what I will put here yet, but you know, whatever I need to. And this was meant to be like a hidden section, and you know, you should be able to just visit it only when you need to. The goal here was that I can do whatever I want upstairs, and all my important things would be down here in the underbelly. So that's it. A short tour of my current state of the base here on this Space Citizen server. If you would like to, you can also join me in here. You can find the details of where this server is and how you can join there under this video. And you know, it would be fun. They're still adding new things to it, new mods, new rules. So it is meant to be a more relaxed experience, not where you are modding and building everything to your heart's content. Even though they expressed creativity is one of the main reasons for this server, I mean the main guiding lines, the original restrictions are quite strict, so we will see. Currently there aren't many players here, so you know, whatever you want to do, you can probably do. I mean, as far as the limitations go. Like, you know, you will not find platinum and uranium mineable anywhere or naturally. I think they told me that there are rogue asteroids that occasionally come to the system, and there you could gather stuff, but I have not yet seen any. I think I have seen one, but I have not confirmed it because I was in Super Cruise, and by the time I realized what that might have been, it already passed and I have not found it afterwards. I think that was a rogue asteroid that I found, and next time I see one like that I will investigate further. But yep, this is my base. This is my garden at the moment, and my plans for this are to create a landing pad, somewhat nice, where you can connect to. I create a hangar where I can store my ships. Maybe I will need a bigger space considering how big ships I have. I need to dismantle that large grid over there because I don't really need that many containers that openly. And yeah, that's what's on the menu for me, and I will give an update on it next time, I guess, when I record Space Engineers. Alright, my dear people, I have some news for the end of this episode. Probably guessed if you saw my Twitter messages that the server is coming to a major update. I was not really sure how to handle that, But it turns out change is good. The admins for the server decided that yes, indeed, this is boring as hell. So they wanted to add more planets, more encounters, and eventually make this whole server a bit more interesting. And that's very good news. I started packing up all my stuff here. Eventually my idea became that I only have 2 ships to transfer because they offer to transfer all your stuff to the new server. So I thought that I will take the large grid ship, I will take all the small grid ships, but I was merging them together. So I was planning to take 1 large and 1 small ship, which was like an abomination. Eventually the admin, I missed a window when I was supposed to tell them what grids to transfer and where. So they just took all the base and the connected infrastructure with it. And you will probably see a picture here about my station up in the air. The underbelly is no longer covered in snow. And the changes have been happened in this point of time when I'm recording this. This is why this episode is called what it is, because it is not actually a sequence of events, more or less. It's more like bits and pieces of videos that I had from the previous iteration of the server. And I have a lot more in the works for the salvage ops, but on a renewed server with more planets, more goals, and more fighting. They even added reapers, which I thought that they will never do. I'm surprised. But yes, there are a lot more of space engineers coming to this channel. Even though these are not my most watched videos, I can't help but play this game because it is awesome. I will definitely make a ton more Space Engineers videos in the future too. I hope you will stay around and give this a thumbs up if you haven't already. You can also subscribe to the channel, and I hope you will have a fantastic day. Bye bye.